Huber's book was generally dismissed not only because it was so poorly written, but because it failed to realize one fact: true scientific research begins with no conclusions. Real scientists are seeking the truth, because they do not yet know what the truth is. True scientific method goes like this. 1. Form a hypothesis. 2. Make predictions for that hypothesis. 3. Test the predictions. 4. Reject or revise the hypothesis. Based on the research findings, Boston University scientist Dr. David Ozanoff explains that ideas in science are themselves like living organisms that must be nourished, supported, and cultivated, with resources for making them grow and flourish. Great ideas that don't get this financial support, because the commercial angles are not immediately obvious, these ideas wither and die. Another way you can often distinguish real science from phony is that real science points out flaws in its own research. Phony science pretends there were no flaws. Contrast this with modern PR and its constant pretensions to sound science. Corporate-sponsored research, whether it's in the area of drugs, GM foods, or chemistry, begins with predetermined conclusions. It is the job of the scientists then to prove that these conclusions are true, because of the economic upside that proof will bring to the industries paying for that research. This invidious approach to science has shifted the entire focus of research in America during the past 50 years, as any true scientist is likely to admit. Stauber documents the increasing amount of corporate sponsorship of university research. This has nothing to do with the pursuit of knowledge. Scientists lament that research has become just another commodity, something bought and sold. It is shocking when Stauber shows how the vast majority of corporate PR today opposes any research that seeks to protect public health or the environment. It's a funny thing that most of the time when we see the phrase junk science, it is in a context of defending something that may threaten either the environment or our health. This makes sense when one realizes that money changes hands only by selling the illusion of health and the illusion of environmental protection. True public health and real preservation of the Earth's environment have very low market value. Stauber thinks it ironic that industry's self-proclaimed debunkers of junk science are usually non-scientists themselves. Here again they can do this because the issue is not science, but the creation of images. When PR firms attack legitimate environmental groups and alternative medicine people, they again use special words that will carry an emotional punch: outrage, sound science, junk science, sensible, scaremongering, responsible, phobia, hoax, alarmist, hysteria. The next time you are reading a newspaper article about an environmental or health issue, note how the author shows bias by using the above terms. This is the result of very specialized training. Another standard PR tactic is to use the rhetoric of the environmentalists themselves to defend a dangerous and untested product that poses an actual threat to the environment. This we see constantly in the PR smokescreen that surrounds genetically modified foods. They talk about how GM foods are necessary to grow more food and to end world hunger, when the reality is that GM foods actually have lower yields per acre than natural crops. The grand design sort of comes into focus once you realize that almost all GM foods have been created by the sellers of herbicides and pesticides, so that those plants can withstand greater amounts of herbicides and pesticides. Now I hope this chapter has given you a hint to start reading newspaper and magazine articles a little differently, and perhaps start watching TV news shows with a slightly different attitude than you had before.